making sure we stay on time. And the way we'll do this is we'll have our 3 presentations first, and then we'll have a joint Q&A with everybody here in the front. And we'll have 3 papers. We'll start with Evan Conway presenting the paper Proud Labor, the Visual Material and Social Branding of a Queer Gaming Community. And then we have Amanda Cullen, who will present Who Watches the Overwatchmen, a digital ethnographic case study of queer Overwatch fans. And then as the 3rd presenter, we'll have Catherine Ringland, who will be presenting Minecraft as a site of sociality for autistic youth. So I'll introduce every speaker as we go, and we'll start with Evan. Evan Conway is a PhD student in social cultural anthropology at the University of California, Irvine. His dissertation project examines servers as places of culture and queer livelihood. This ethnographic work examines how virtual world or online game servers across time and space come to be experienced and imagined not only as invisible digital infrastructure, but also as social places through engagements with memory and nostalgia, senses of ownership and belonging, and server materiality. In his downtime, Evan indulges in Brandon Sanderson novels, role-playing in video games, and RuPaul's Drag Race. All right. So, yeah, go ahead.
Do we need this? Can you hear me fine? Okay. I know the mic was being weird last time. 20 minutes. Got it. Okay. So, okay. Okay. As you might have noticed, I changed the title of the presentation and the scope quite a bit, but it's still answering a lot of the same questions that were mentioned in the abstract. But I apologize, it's not exactly what I said I was going to do because my data sort of like other things I think were more interesting than the questions I was posing in the abstract. Also, as a sort of trigger warning, the word taint comes up quite a lot, probably every other word. So if you don't like that word, be aware that you're going to hear it a lot. Yeah, okay. So in late 2016, just 2 weeks after the release of the Legion expansion, and seemingly out of nowhere, Blizzard Entertainment decided to ban the guild name of a queer-identified guild on a queer-identified server in World of Warcraft. The order of events was confusing, and the response was fascinating, so I'll first lay out a sort of timeline of events, and then I'll go in to analyze what branding and censorship means in this context. So, first, the guild name is Bear Team. Sort of hard to see it there. Nice. So, this happened in 2016. On September 19th, 2016, Blizzard GMs or Game Masters revoked the guild name Bear Team in World of Warcraft. This means that the guild name was temporarily replaced with the name Guild ZYDG. So the guild was not disbanded, but was temporarily renamed, and they requested a rename of the guild officially. Guild leadership responded quickly to resolve the issue by submitting a ticket, which means nothing, to Blizzard, assuring members that this is a normal occurrence and will be fixed quickly. According to one guild member, this sort of thing has historically happened at least once for expansion. The fact that this is expected and routine behavior is also problematic in and of itself. So typically what happens is that someone takes issue with one of the community guild names, specifically this community, all of which have the word taint in them. Other examples include the word taint and taint invaders. They call them sub-guilds. So that player uses World of Warcraft's dangerously quick and easy right-click and report functions, which you might be aware of this. And the GM, perhaps a newly appointed one, bans the name without reading the internal memos on this particular guild regarding the acceptance of the taint name, which was sanctified by Blizzard over 10 years ago in 2006 when taint first became a thing right before Warcraft started. So on September 20th, the guild name was restored after the guild leaders reminded the current GMs about this internal memo that said taint sort of was an exception to the rule. Sometime between September and 20th and 27th, GMs had this sort of weird private meeting that no one was really privy to until it wasn't quite up. Blizzard GMs, they met and actively rescinded their earlier ruling from a few Blizzard administrators, and they sent an email to the guild leaders requesting that they rename all the guilds with all the guilds that have taint in the name, including Raiders of the Lost Taint. So on September 27th, guild leaders were notified of this decision and quickly acted to create a plan to respond to and what had become at this point a battle to be fought in the larger war queer inclusion in online games. So now it's the guild's turn to respond. September 27th through October 13th, guild leaders come up with several tactics to combat this problem, leading up to an inevitable confrontation with administrators. So there's 4 things they did. The first one was they crowdsourced in-game textual materials which use the word taint in game, taint or tainted specifically, and using it as evidentiary argument fodder for what they would inevitably approach the administrators. And this involved requesting screenshots and links to the WoW wiki, all compiled in a private Facebook group. 2, they created a petition via MoveOn.com. It was the first petition of its kind, super interesting. And it was distributed widely and it received over 500 signatures. 3, they encouraged members to tweet evidence specifically to the official Blizzard Twitters. And out of the small comment thread on the Facebook group, the hashtag #HandsOffMyTaint. So they also encouraged members to write emails to several public relations coordinators to Blizzard, and their names and personal email addresses were distributed to the group membership. So on October 6th, the Blizzard admins actually reached out to the guild of their own volition via email, which was hopeless time, and they regarded their taint, citing a lot more, this is what their quote was from the email, a lot more communication from various guild members and supporters across the community regarding this recent experience on topic. So, to some extent, all was going to according to plan and good sign. So, October 13th, 2 guild leaders were on a conference call with Blizzard administrators afterwards with their taint name is restored, and there's a new policy wherein any taint guild that is born out of the community has to get a sort of informal thumbs up from the administrators before the community, which seems fair, more or less, based on terms of service. Okay. Their taint was flagged again 7 days later, and it was named Guild CYTIL for an entire day, which is done. So, it's not clear how frequently this happens, but it happens quite a lot, and struggle continues this day. So let's talk about it. The censoring of the taint name is only one in a long line of injustices that Blizzard has imposed on its LGBTQ player base. In 2006, Sarah Andrews started an LGBTQ safe space guild in World of Warcraft, and was threatened with being banned from the game if she continued. The Blood Elf male body was deemed too feminine early on and was subsequently masculinized. Same-sex narratives are altogether absent from the lore, and there are no queer characters as far as I know, and quest lines contain very few references to queer activities. So, this latest attack was based, yet again, on a flawed concept of community employed by Blizzard to define their player base and the beliefs and values they appear to hold. I'll first critique the way Blizzard drew upon a particular definition of community in this case, and to defend their position, and then I'm going to analyze the principal strategies utilized by the queer gaming community to contest and ultimately reverse the decision to censor their guild name or account. This is a quote from the Blizzard email. The first email notification of the censorship of their taint came from a senior game master. This email was made available with private information like the email subtracted to the entire membership of the guild on Facebook. This email begins by expressing a sense of understanding that there was a special exception to keep the taint family of guild names regardless of the reports they received. An investigation was described between public relations and customer service management teams. In the end, these teams, quote, determined that the exception for these games no longer align with our philosophies and policies regarding names in World of Warcraft. End quote. With no further explanation, and as might be expected from this kind of correspondence, vague objection. They then go on to cite cross-realm availability and the right-click and report function as forms of empowering, quote, the community to determine what they find offensive when it comes to guild names. Another telling quote reads, in the spirit of being fair and consistent with all players, this name is no longer available to be used as a guild name. So problematic here is the notion of the community that they've cited here, and I've tried to bold it to make it a little bit bigger so it's how it stands out. For a couple of reasons. One reason is it's infrastructural. So part of my primary research project, like I said, is related to servers, specifically how gamers are becoming more and more actively involved in the conservation and preservation of their own online gaming worlds through the use of things like servers. So part of this project is to study the ways that servers create boundaries for players in some ways, while infrastructure restrictions and changes make these boundaries more or less porous. The idea of a server community or server culture is dead, according to the email, in a sense. And that WoW has somehow opened up to be a completely cross-server open book, which is not necessarily true. When Blizzard opened up the availability of cross-realm interactions, players began to interact with others that were not from their own server. As a result, what may be commonplace and accepted on one server may come as a shock to those on other servers. This is, at least philosophy of the administrators. Yet Proudmoore, the queer server, maintains a queer identity, and the members of the server have certain expectations of behavior and a particular idea of community that persists beyond the quote cross-realm availability cited by the GM. And the GM says that the exception for the name Beartank was revisited because of server. The server changed, mind you, that they themselves made. So the other reason that their use of community is problematic is that it relies on the establishment of an us versus them mentality where those noisy users, which right-click and report offensive guild names like Christmas tomorrow, become the cultural insiders, those insiders. The cultural outsiders who surprisingly are already marginalized in the game world, historically unfriendly within the own cultural logic of the game, as well as the So this version of community is unsustainable as a means of defining the player base and defining what the player base actually believes. And as a result, constant reporting, flagging, and banning of games containing pain are not viewed as harassment. Problematically, the refusal of Blizzard senior staff to recognize this dangerous contribution. Try this now. So why does the community have such a problem with the word tank? The name tank was chosen as a purposeful double entendre on the tank as it appears in the World of Warcraft lore, in the largely hidden and frequently misunderstood area of human anatomy that we all know and love. I don't have a graphic presentation like this. But taint in the context of World of Warcraft refers to spell magic. It's this chaotic and demonic form of energy that corrupts individuals. The Burning Legion who use this magic carry the magic in their blood, which they use to spread the taint. Curiously, fellow monsters called Entropic Horrors can poison individuals with a sickness that drains life. So it's not hard, not necessarily a stretch, to read the all too familiar HIV moral and panic rhetoric of the 80s into the very nature of the chain of spell magic, an inherently evil disease spread through blood by corrupt even in human individuals. Taint is not subscribed to this reading. This is just hey streamers. Sorry about this. It's worth mentioning, I guess, the start and dark areas. But here's a tweet during the full campaign to get the Beartank back with Ryan leaving my guild name alone. Pink guilds and Popper and renamed to hashtag hands. So how are the Taint family of guilds playing with this concept using double entendre and why does it matter? In the article describing Can't Talk, Keith argued to differentiate between pun and double entendre by saying, quote, if puns and double entendre share the central feature of the co-presence of two meanings, they are significantly different with regard to content and mode of operation. A double entendre is the outcome of attributing a second sexual meaning to a verb utterance. And what this means is that double entendre is purposefully sexual and subversive. During the hands-off my Taint campaign, this community of players and their supporters made attempts to undermine the decision of the Blizzard administrators by indexing certain hypocritical ideologies within the argument to do away with the word taint and guild names. So, the most prominent of these was the numerous uses of the words taint and tainted in in-game items, quests, non-player characters, spells, pets, and icons. You can see the stats here collected by members of this group. As one of the guild members, or the guild leaders, move on to the description, we've historically been targeted as having an offensive guild name often by the same person or persons, which is confusing since Blizzard uses the word taint more as titles. The group cited examples like Kazon's taint, Pocket Fell Spreader with taint in the item description. The strategy of targeting specific instances of the word taint in the game is effective because it calls out inherent contradiction in the decision to continue revoking the Beartank name. Kazon's taint and others like it are especially interesting considering the word taint capitalized and blazoned across every player's screen could not possibly have further notice of the double entendre. With often sexual humor in World of Warcraft, you might think the guild name Beartank would be a welcome addition, but it's already a very sexual name. But as it stands, in making taint problematic as an LGBTQ guild name, Blizzard has done the subversive work for the group. By producing the taboo meaning of the double entendre without recognizing its inherent contradiction, the double entendre is successful, actually, in clearly subverting the logic of the game itself. It both reveals and conceals the public sphere of online gaming despite attempts. Traditionally, a number of guilds in the game, many not even on Proudmoore, carry the name Taint but are not associated with Taint family of guilds. It might be argued that censoring the official Taint guilds and not these others is an act of genericide. Genericide is what happens when a brand becomes associated with a generic name for a product. Things like Kleenex, all Kleenex, tablets are called iPads typically. And even a recent legal battle about a controversy surrounding sort of after the first place. Choosing to ban Bear Taint but not the dozens of guilds on other servers named Taint allows those guilds to continue without providing the LGBTQ experience expected from the Taint family. So as a way of concluding, I'd like to express concern over one additional aspect of this case. The website called WowProgress.com is a rankings website that draws data from the game for the purposes of measuring and comparing responses to characters' skills. On the guild name pages for all guilds containing the word Taint, the word is censored with 3 asterisks. However, to point to some of the hypocrisy of this for a moment, search for the word Taint within the drop-down list of suggestions, and the word Taint is not censored. So why is this? Why censor in one place and not the other? And what are they even censoring for in this case? You can clearly see it listed in the giant list. The censorship of the Taint name, even here, indicates that in order to combat the marginalization of queer players and MMOs, we should address not just the offensive and insulting discourse and the excluding behaviors of online gamers. We also must combat and fight to change the lead over cultural logics active among game company administrators and player bases that extend even to the larger public sphere as well. So it begs the question, who is queer censorship for? Or better, who is it speaking for and not whom? And how can future MMOs and virtual worlds take these sorts of conflicts and contradictions into account when considering the design of their game logics, terms of service, and reporting functions? All this, especially considering that creating a brand identity is not enough, even after 10 years of guild activity. As one guild leader said on Twitter, Taint can be used as a hot sauce, but not in LGBT guild names.
We'll just continue with the next presentation, which will be by Cullen, who will present the paper Who Watches the Overwatchmen, a digital ethnographic case study of the Overwatch fans. And Amanda is currently a PhD student in the Department of Informatics at the University of California. Amanda has previously earned degrees in cultural anthropology from the University of West Florida and public service from the University of Arkansas and the Institute of Public Service. Amanda is pursuing research that promotes diversity and inclusion in games and gaming communities.
Can you hear me? Okay. I am choosing to use the microphone because I'm getting over a cold and I want to make sure that everybody can hear me talk at lightning speed. So I actually did have a really cool Overwatch themed text, but apparently it didn't carry over. PC over Mac, everybody. So going forward, I'd like to begin briefly by describing my 2 research contexts. The first of which is Overwatch, the second of which is Tumblr. So just in case everybody is not aware, Overwatch is a Blizzard Entertainment title. It's their first new intellectual property in 20 years. It's a first-person shooter competitive style game, cooperative competitive, I should say. A week after release, there were 7 million players. A month after Overwatch's release, there were 10 million players. And as of January of this year, there were 25 million players. That's more than WoW has ever earned, but WoW is a monthly subscription as opposed to a one-time fee. And so this was released in May of last year. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary, and I'm thinking there might be 30 million players by that point. The second research context that I will be talking about today is Tumblr. I'm sure many people here are familiar with it. Tumblr is a microblogging platform that currently hosts 341 million blogs as of noon yesterday. did I just go out? Okay. As of noon yesterday, Tumblr has a well-known reputation as a host for both fandom activity and progressive sort of social justice-oriented counterpublics online. So I'm presenting the queer Overwatch fandom on Tumblr as an example of a counterpublic. So before I begin, I want to just outline my conceptual framework right quick. I base a lot of my work on Henry Jenkins. He is influential in sort of establishing fandom research. Tumblr and the activities there absolutely typify, in my mind, the sort of ideas that he outlined regarding convergence culture and participatory culture. Tumblr is absolutely a visual platform that allows users to curate all types of media objects in ways that allow them to express individual identity and interest, as well as enabling them to participate in larger collectives, many of which are fandoms, and I will be mostly talking about those groups. So fandoms are, for those who don't know, groups of individuals with common interests and feelings for a piece of media, although it can be extended in a variety of ways to describe fans of anything. For example, pretty sure there's a mac and cheese fandom that uses this on Tumblr. But I will be talking about queer Overwatch players in regards to fandom activities. What is particularly relevant and interesting to me about fandoms of media content is the act of creating headcanon. For those who don't know about that, headcanon is an expression through art, text, or spoken word of theories about a piece of media that are meant to supplement or replace something that is canon. Canon being something that was officially created or intended to be part of the universe of that content by either the developer or is largely agreed upon by the fan base itself. And headcanon will either supplement or replace that. Again, it is my contention that fans can largely be lumped together on the basis of liking one thing, but then in general there are usually subgroups. So we may refer to, in this case, a gaming community, but it's my contention that the gaming community is actually a series of smaller gaming communities. And in this sense, I'll be talking about a very specific subgroup, queer players and fans of the game Overwatch. So, Overwatch, why do people love it? One of the main things I would say is that it's the diversity of the hero cast. For those who don't play, there are 24 playable characters. I believe this doesn't show the two newest ones, so you'll have to forgive me on that. 13% is male, 11 is female. Typically, in my experience, even the robots and the non-human primate are given gender, so that's why I'm referring to them as gendered, although there is some debate about whether or not the robots in particular can be considered agender or gender neutral. They represent a variety of national origins. There's a character from Egypt, a character from Brazil, Russia, and even the moon. There's a variety of body types and a variety of ages. The youngest character is 17, the oldest is 61. And there's also recently Overwatch has been getting more attention for the variety of ability that it represents. So to kind of tie into what Kate will be talking about in a second, Symmetra was actually announced a couple weeks ago to be autistic. So I think a lot of what draws people to Overwatch is the diversity of the hero cast. I think this is a big turnaround for Blizzard in particular, which in the past has been met with a lot of criticism regarding their lack of diversity and their poor portrayal of women and minorities in particular. But I think they went somewhere different with Overwatch, where they deliberately tried to represent a variety of different cultures throughout the world, and I think they're continuing to do so with the new characters they release. It's been well received by fans. It's obviously, I think, been profitable for them, and I think it sends a message to the rest of the video game industry. I'm recalling Riot's recent decision to release one of their League of Legends characters as, I think, queer. I can't remember in what way. And I think so that is, in a way, Blizzard with Overwatch influencing other major developers in the industry to kind of consider diversity in their major titles. So who are the Overwatchers? What draws players to the game, and what are they talking about Overwatch outside of the game? I mentioned how players, I think, love the diverse characters, but I think they also just love the lore hunt. A lot of what Overwatch has been for Blizzard is straight up gameplay and all of the, straight gameplay as far as the actual game, and a lot of the lore exists outside of the game. And I think that gives the players a lot of opportunities to sort of explore the lore as they wish, uncover new characters, especially with Sombra, that was a big deal. But that also provides fans a large opportunity to interpret or reinterpret characters as they wish, especially where character backgrounds or plot holes are left vague and plot holes exist in the lore. That gives fans a lot to manipulate. So here you have some examples of the ways that fans have celebrated Overwatch, and I think that has had an influence on Blizzard. I think anyone here who plays Overwatch knows that there's now a Diva Ringland sort of emote in the game, and that was Blizzard responding to the fans responding to the game. In addition to discussing the game with each other and sharing original content on websites like Tumblr, I'm interested in how fans are creating similar interests and new identities through those discussions, particularly through fan fiction that they write and fan art that they create, some examples of which are here. So this is especially prevalent on Tumblr, where I find that a lot of individuals are queering aspects of Overwatch, although that's not as necessary as it used to be. In December of 2016, this past Christmas, Blizzard did come out with a comic that revealed Tracer, their sort of the face of their game, to be a lesbian, which was a big deal. Before that, nearly all of the Overwatch characters had been interpreted by fans as queer in a variety of ways. Some queer fan activity related to Overwatch on Tumblr is even performed by people who haven't even played the game for a variety of reasons. Overwatch, I think the character models are just so attractive to people that they want to be involved in the fandom, regardless of whether or not they play, which I think is a very important aspect as far as community building and participating in headcanon creation, particularly in terms of headcanon that queers the game. So even though now that Tracer is a canon lesbian, she still continues to be queered in a variety of other ways too. And a lot of the other characters, although I find a lot of people sort of ignore Torbjorn, a lot of people queer all the characters in a variety of ways that are super interesting. Okay, so Overwatch is definitely queer on Tumblr. Now it's queer in the game, but it's always, even I think before the when the beta was still active, Overwatch is queer on Tumblr, which is what attracted me to it in the first place. When it was in the beta stage, I saw some of the ships that were growing in popularity, although I don't think Farrah and Mercy had that cute little name they have now. Some feel that Blizzard has not gone far enough in terms of diversity, particularly with people of color and unconventionally pretty women in the game. Perhaps Anna, the introduction of Anna, who's in her 60s and is missing an eye, was some attempt to sort of respond to that criticism. Again, in particular, some fans feel that more than just Tracer should be queer. For now, she's the only canon queer individual in the game. Blizzard sort of has ambiguously left it open to queering more of the heroes in the future. Some players on Tumblr, though, have even suggested that all of the characters should be queer. There's a sort of narrative on Tumblr that a lot of these games, particularly first-person shooters, have stereotypically been marketed at straight white young men, and it's time for queer individuals to have a game of their own. So regardless of its intent, Overwatch has sort of been claimed as a queer game by players on Tumblr. It is now a queer game. Overwatch is a queer game, everybody. You're here first. So obviously there is some pushback against that, even on Tumblr, which is sort of has this reputation as being this liberal queer utopia. There's this idea that, in a game like this, where the lore doesn't matter to the gameplay, that somebody's sexuality or a character's sexuality shouldn't matter to the gameplay. I would argue that for some fans, being able to queer characters and to identify as them improves the gameplay experience. And so many have had that for so long that regardless of how other people feel about it, I think it's very important that Blizzard has come out with one character that is a canon lesbian. So what that sort of discussion of headcanon queer characters in Overwatch is what drew me to considering what motivations do queer Overwatch fans have for changing the canon game lore, and in what ways do they do this? So obviously I've showed you some examples of fan work, particularly drawings, not so much fan fiction, but what I did was I looked at posts on Tumblr, dozens of them from dozens of people, and I coded them in a series of coding rounds. First I went through descriptor coding. I just went through what is the post talking about, coded it, and then I went through again and organized them and got more focused, so I got to some concepts and some themes that I thought described what I was seeing. So what I was getting at again were the motivations that people have for queering Overwatch characters, and these are the 4 big motivations that I reveal. The need to participate in a community, individual or personal reasons, just enjoyment of queering a character, the need to sort of advocate for representation, to talk about why it was important to them and why it's important to a community, to sort of address criticism or defend against criticism. So I see all of these motivators as being linked, and they matter in importance on sort of a spectrum depending on the individual or the group that you're discussing, but I think in general so far what my research reveals is that these are the primary motivators. I'm going to get into 2 in particular, the first being representation. I think for queer video game players in particular, representation is always a big deal when approaching games like this. But in particular with Overwatch, some of the big themes were subversion, the idea that representation is subversive in a good way, in a way that's beneficial to queer players, that it defies typical tropes and stereotypes that you see in most games like Overwatch, first-person shooters. So imagine every game's main character were gay. Wouldn't you be happy to see a straight character? The same logic applies. That's a direct quote from somebody on Tumblr. So there's also the idea of representation as alignment. Not only that a queer character allows an individual a greater sense of identification, but that portraying more queer characters in a game also presents the world as it actually is, the world more aligned. That there are queer individuals in the world, obviously, and that more games should portray them, hence alignment. There's also the idea that representation just adds more value to someone's gameplay, and that is something I think in particular that developers should consider. The idea that representation makes the game more enjoyable. So to read this, and Anon says, why is everyone in Overwatch trans in your mind? Why can't you just enjoy the game without worrying about what form of Tumblr as long as you think the character identified with? And the response is, get a load of this person. It's not like it matters to you, it doesn't hurt anyone, and it makes it fun to enjoy the characters. Like, seriously, get over yourself. So the idea being that this is directly in opposition to one of the criticisms that are often faced, the idea that this middle one, that representation, that queer diversity in a game doesn't affect the gameplay, doesn't improve the way the game plays, and therefore shouldn't matter. The other being, so another idea being that criticism can be subversive. The idea that representation in a game actually harms other people that come into contact with it. So why trick straight people into buying Overwatch, but then make the lead character lesbian? That's unethical. There's also sarcastic criticism. So criticism of players who critique representation and diversity without any clear agenda. So I can't believe straights aren't allowed to play Overwatch. This sort of idea that even one queer character in the game ruins the game for all players. That is some of the discussion that is occurring on Tumblr. So what I see overall is that Overwatch has been embraced by queer players. I've seen several journalists reporting on how Overwatch is very popular among queer players. A lot of the ships, like Pharmacy, are feature same-sex couples. a lot of the memes that come out of the game, out of the fandom base, are being shared and created and perpetrated by queer players. But in a sense, this makes Overwatch everyone's problematic fave. For some, one queer character isn't enough. Overwatch has not been queered enough, and Blizzard should make efforts to include more queer diversity and include more diversity in general. And then for others, Overwatch is catering to the sort of social justice warrior type that exists on Tumblr, that Blizzard should just make a straight-up first-person shooter and release it and not try to make everyone happy with the characters that are represented in it. So again, my motivations that I identified for fan reinterpretation by queer players are to advocate for representation, address criticisms of representation in video games, to express themselves as individuals and to share their individual experiences, and to participate in a sense of community. What I see this is that, sorry, one page is behind. It's very unprofessional. Okay, so Overwatch reinterpretation as political discourse. For me, these activities are not political in the sense that they're promoting a specific party or agenda, but they are political in the sense that fan reinterpretation of art and a video game canon developed or established by the developer is a discourse of sort of a counterpublic, of a queer video game public, in conversation with other publics and counterpublics about what can or cannot be included in games. It's political in the sense that queer fan art and fan fiction allows less recognized parts of the gaming community to address their needs and their values to larger publics in the video game community. And it's political in the sense that all media and creation and recreation is not enacted, presented, or interpreted in a sociocultural vacuum. I've seen that there's a lot of discussion now in gaming communities about how to deal with issues such as politics and representation in games. What can or cannot be understood as political or social or culturally constructed, and why? What should diversity look like in games? What should queer diversity look like in games? What qualifies as enough representation in games? These are questions I don't have an answer to. They're questions I'm interested in exploring, though. But I think it's imperative that researchers, developers, players, and fans all grapple with these questions and consider how publics and counterpublics are engaging in discourse with one another or not engaging in discourse with one another about these issues, although that's easier said than done. To conclude, I just want to outline my future directions for this project. This is a work in progress. I probably should have prefaced with that. I hope to continue observations. I'm working on an IRB that will allow me to perform key informant interviews and participant observation. If you're interested in following my work or being part of the study, let me know. Mostly, for me, Overwatch is a model for how future researchers can look at how fans are queering video game content, particularly in games where explicit queer content is lacking or not wanted, and that what their motivations are for doing so. I'd like to add to efforts like the LGBTQ Video Game Archive to provide a greater understanding of queer experiences and fans with games. And for me, it's important to understand how and why video game players alter content, what it means to their experience, to the experiences of other players, and what it means for their relationship with video game developers. I look forward to your questions at the end. Thank you.
So we will move on to our last presentation in this panel, which will be by Ringland. She will be presenting Minecraft as a site of sociality for autistic youth. Catherine is an informatics PhD candidate in the School of Information and Computer Science at the University of California, Irvine, under the advisement of Dr. Julian Hayes. She received her Bachelor of Science in Psychology from Washington State University, Vancouver, and her research interests include studying and designing assistive technology for youth with disabilities. Her dissertation work is exploring how an online Minecraft community for children with autism uses social media and games to support socialization.
Okay, I'm going to try using mic because I too have a cold. Amanda and I work in the same lab. I think that might not be a coincidence. So I'm Catherine Ringland, and I'm a PhD candidate at UC Irvine. And I would love for you to reach out to me on Twitter. See my handle there. All right. So I'd like to start with just kind of broadly talking about humans are social beings. Our entire world is built upon social interactions, meanings, and relationships. Every day we must interact with one another to survive. However, our social world is also changing rapidly. We're growing closer together, mostly because of the internet. So ideas of what is appropriate social behavior and what constitutes social interactions and relationships is shifting. And so that's kind of what I'd like to talk to you about today. So I mostly talk about kids in this, although it does apply to adults too. And what we're seeing with children is an opportunity here with technology to see where new media can give us an idea of, ideas of how different children might learn and play. Things are happening in classrooms and things now. So I would like to talk specifically about children with disabilities and how these new media can be tools for them, specifically for playing, learning, and socializing. I like to explore what does it look like when kids are using media to communicate with one another? What if they're using technology to express themselves creatively? And what if this is quality time for a parent and child to spend together and it is mediated by a technological intervention? So specifically today, I'm going to be talking about autistic individuals. So just briefly, individuals with autism face a myriad of challenges in today's normative society. And the severity of these difficulties range widely from one person to the next. Normative face-to-face interactions, for instance, can be a challenge for those with autism. For example, eye contact, interpreting nonverbal cues, and and coherent verbal utterances can be challenging and uncomfortable. When these social interactions are hard to interpret or cause heightened anxiety, they can lead to impoverished relationships and loneliness, which in a developing child can lead to other delays, and in children and adults alike, there is an increased risk for depression and generalized anxiety. So those grappling with these challenges are often seen as having the inability or lack of desire to have social relationships. However, what I would like to say is a key point here is that these social interactions simply look different for these individuals rather than being completely non-existent. So today I'm going to be talking about Minecraft because virtual worlds are a space in which we're seeing more and more children spend a lot of their time. And in particular, children with autism love Minecraft. So that's kind of the place I decided to check out. Minecraft is super popular, and because it's customizable and open-ended, it's a great place for the players to kind of interact. Players can dig up blocks and kind of be creative and make up their own spaces. So construction materials can be created, and you can kind of end up building whatever you want. So you can think of lighthouses and castles and all sorts of wild, crazy things, which I'll have some images of later on. Minecraft is accessible even for the novice user. So unlike virtual worlds like Second Life, it's really great for kids. It's kind of got infrastructure already in place for in-world socializing. So it has a text chat, it has the avatars that can interact. So let me talk specifically about this Outcraft server. Outcraft is the first Minecraft server dedicated to providing a safe, fun learning environment for children on the autism spectrum and their families. It is run completely by parent volunteers and is sustained from donations by community members. The server welcomes children with autism, their family, and friends. This work is part of an ongoing digital ethnography. So my work to date includes approximately 150 hours of in-world participant observation since the spring of 2014. as well as participating in in-world chat and on their community forum on their website. I first approached the creator of Outcraft via Facebook in January of 2014 to inquire about doing some research. And I gave him my own background as a PhD student, and I'm interested in assistive technology, and kind of explained the process of what my research would look like. And we kind of worked out ways I would be able to be on the server and keep the kids safe and keep their information private. So with that, he gave me full access to the server and their community website. So in addition to taking field notes while I'm in world, I also have conducted interviews with parents and children within the community. All the children have opted to conduct these interviews in the Outcraft Minecraft virtual world. So this is via the text chat functionality. I did offer to let them conduct interviews in any communication method they preferred, and they all chose in Minecraft. Which I found actually to be really great because it allowed me to kind of go to their homes and their builds and kind of take tours of what they've done and really kind of see what they've created in the space, as well as interviewing them about their other activities. So in this talk, to protect privacy, all the usernames presented here are pseudonyms, and screenshots have sometimes been modified to protect usernames. And then anywhere you see video or text chat that's not edited, that's from my own private server and not from the Outcraft server. So the participants in this community are mainly preteens who've been diagnosed with autism, but it also includes adults with autism, parents, it includes children as young as 6. Because of this, it's important to note that an avatar in the game does not necessarily map to one person in the physical world. Siblings may share an avatar, for instance, taking turns playing in Minecraft, or a child and parent may be controlling an avatar together, like in this image here. The one rule that kind of pre-selects who can play is everyone must speak English, but users do come from all over the globe, with large groups coming from North America, the United Kingdom, and Australia. So this is my avatar that I created. I'm a little researcher, and I wanted to make sure that people understood why I was there. So I used the username ResearcherKate. I also announced what I was doing on their website and through their social media, as well as making it clear when I enter the world who I am and why I'm there. I also made sure that parents understood, so I had information sheets up on my website, different places, distributed that so that everybody was very clear why I was there and interacting with their children. Once I was in the world, I immediately built my own office. So I'm not super creative when it comes to Minecraft, so I just kind of have a simple wood house. But I did make an office that allowed people to come to me if they wanted to and come see my space, and kind of created my own little presence in the world. So let me talk a little bit about the different things I've found while in this world, particularly when it comes to socializing. So as stated on their website, the #1 goal of Outcraft is to make members feel safe. Bullying has emerged as a big concern for administrators and many of the community members in Outcraft. Online bullying is a big problem across the internet, but it's particularly troubling when you're talking about children interacting in these online spaces. And then you talk about children who've already felt isolated and have difficulty with normative interactions. And parents are really concerned about this, so they created the server. So in lieu of kind of relying on larger servers to moderate the community members, parents kind of took this into their own hands, and they created their own server, which they moderate themselves. So there's always parents online kind of in there monitoring what's going on with the kids. So in addition to these safety concerns, the Outcraft community members also encourage various kinds of pro-social behavior. So this behavior is scaffolded into the virtual world, again, using technical and social means. So examples of pro-social behavior include, encouraging people to say hello when they log on, welcoming new members to the community, various good acts like gift giving. So gift giving is built into the structure of the community. So on the webpage, in the community rules, it states, we encourage everyone to be generous, to be nice, and to help as much as you can. You don't have to give your stuff away, but just to give someone a little help if they need it. And always do your best to remember to say please and thank you. And here a mother talks about her son's first experiences in ArtCraft. She says, another child gave my son gifts today, and he was shocked. A little while later, he said to me, I didn't really want to, but I gave some gifts away to others. It makes me want to give things to people. It's a new thing for him to want to share. And this fostered culture of generosity helps the users feel welcome and cared for, where in other Minecraft servers, they are feeling inherently unwelcome and in danger. So as some community members found before joining ArtCraft, being different could be socially problematic on other servers. One child, for example, included Autistic in their username because it was part of their identity and they were proud of it. However, labeling themselves as such got them into trouble. In an interview, they said, people would swear, call me names, break my bills, etc. because I'm different. I didn't realize people would be mean about the username, and I liked the name. There's other people on here on ArtCraft with autism or autistic in their names. Yeah, that's another reason I'm happy to have autism. So the text-based aspect of the community's communications are probably also a big draw for these kids, as they are looking for a place to vent their frustrations, ask for help, and in return, eventually help others. In response to asking about making friends, one community member replied, I guess that's what ArtCraft is for, meeting people who go through the same thing as you, so you don't feel so alone. These kids describe hanging out with their friends on ArtCraft in much in the same way that other youth online have. They spend their time with their ArtCraft friends online by interacting through the forums, instant messaging, and hanging out in the ArtCraft virtual world. And although not typically physically co-located, these youth on ArtCraft consider these relationships to be meaningful friendships. In order to understand how these kids on ArtCraft are creating and maintaining these friendships, I have started exploring kind of what it means for them to be social. So one member posted in the forums, so I don't ever socialize. The only way I am social is online. I never hang out with my family or do anything. The only time I come out of my room is if we watch a family movie, I play baseball, we go for a car ride, or I go to work. Other than that, I'm in my room 24/7 on the PC, YouTube, text, etc. Anyone else like this? Will I always not be social? I really want to be social, but it's hard. So while not understanding why he doesn't socialize, this community member is describing a myriad of social activities that he actually engages in. And in response to this post, another member posted, even being on ArtCraft is social. So for many on ArtCraft, being helpful and supportive is one of the most important parts of their sociality. The community has found that it is important enough to write into their own rules and actively encourage this behavior through rewards. They have things like Member of the Week and Junior Helper. Another huge part of the culture is acceptance. So members actively accept each other for who they are, making being different more tolerable and reducing social isolation and loneliness that frequently surrounds this difference. One parent wrote about herself, I love being a member of the ArtCraft community and I love spending time with my family here. Finally, just feel like I found a place that I fit in, a place I was accepted for being shy and just being different than others. Most of my life, I've never felt that I fit in anywhere and never could make friends my age. Here, it doesn't matter where I live, my age, how shy or antisocial I can be at times, that I have anxiety over really weird things, or that I can talk too much. I'm accepted. Another way that community members create relationships is through small group get-togethers. So in one interview, a player was saying that sometimes I ask others to help me. Usually I show them a picture of how to build something, and we pick either how to get the items and start the build. I usually let them start building because I'm not the best builder. So he explains the process of how he leads a team in a building project, how he gets people together and actually does an entire construction project, which for a kid with autism is kind of, a parent would find that amazing. So they're coordinating through various social media, and then they actually get into the world and work together. And then the outcome of this, one member said, "While building that village, I met this friend, and to this day, he is still my friend." So these projects not only are allowing for them to work on various different kinds of skills, but they're also a way to have a common goal and make friendships. So I'm going to conclude my results here with a vignette that I like because it's a completely different kind of way of being social. So this actually happened to me, and this is from my field notes. A member asked in chat if anyone wants to mine with them. I volunteer. Together we go into the mine within the virtual world armed with pickaxes. There's very little talking. The first player takes the lead in choosing a dig site. Together we work in parallel, digging down into the earth, looking for minerals to take home to use as building materials. When we hit lava, the first player says he has to get off now because dinner is ready, and asks if I will be on again tomorrow. I say yes. The first player logs off. So kind of my big takeaways from this is what social looks like is going to be different from person to person. And this community shows us that these online interactions and friendships are just as valid and meaningful as those formed in the physical world. And what I would really like to kind of reach out to this community and hopefully have some good conversations this weekend about is how we can have a more open dialogue about disability in games. I think that there's a real opportunity here, as this community has demonstrated, to create much more inclusive game spaces and have that inclusivity include all sorts of things, including ability. And so I would really appreciate if people would reach out to me and we could talk more about that. And with that, I'd like to thank Autcraft and everyone who gave me feedback on this work, as well as everybody who's generously funded me. And with that, I will like it.
So thanks to the perfect preparation of our speakers, would you like to come up? We have about 15 minutes time for Q&A. So you have all of them up here, and you can direct your questions to whoever is the right person to answer this.
So I actually have two questions that's already for Amanda. I wanted to ask Amanda, there's kind of like a long history of transformative culture in various hard times, sort of like what you were describing with people with and other reinterpretations of Overwatch. I'm wondering, do you feel that that kind of transformation stems largely from the lack of queer characters available in other media, or do you feel like even if media as a whole reflected the real world diversity, that there would still be a place for this kind of reimagining of characters?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, yes, I think you're right about the first point. I think part of a lot of what, as far as queering media happens because like queer diversity or representation isn't always available. I think some media formats are really not there, but some happen. But I think even if, say, this were, again, one of my questions is what does perfect representation do? So let's presume that we do have that. I think even then, you know, some people would say, like, yeah, you made that character straight in your video game, but, like, in my head, it makes more sense that they are bisexual or Asian or whatever. So I think, like, yes, it would still occur even if we had a so-called state person.
Cool. Okay. And then I was going to ask you, Kate, Uh,